Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church in Eugene. Hello, Zoom friends. We are glad you're here with us today as well. My name is Nancy Buffum. I am today's worship associate. I use the pronouns she or he or they. And I am a tall person with short hair, glasses, and an off-white shirt jacket today. All of the information that you need for today's service is in the handy guide to worship, which was in the hall. And if you didn't see this and you need one, please raise your hand. And our ushers will walk around and hand you one. Reverend Jen will be our Zoom chaplain today. Our tech team will drop a copy of the worship guide into the chat. So now, let us enter into a time of worship by lighting the flaming chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Eileen, one of our incoming OWL, Our Whole Lives facilitators, will be lighting the chalice as I share these words from Pat Uribe Lichty. We light our chalice today, knowing that our hope and our passion are needed to change the world. We bring different gifts to the work, but we come together in one faith, that what we do makes a difference, both to our world and to ourselves. Now, let's say together the words of our mission, which affirm our shared purpose. Empowered by love, we transform ourselves and serve our world. And I'd like to introduce Zephyr Burton, who has a testimonial from the heart to share with our congregation.
Good morning. To say that I was excited to join this church is an understatement. I had been peripherally involved with UU in Texas for many years through CUP's involvement and leading a Spiral Scouts troop. Eventually, I decided it was important for me to be part of a community, so a couple of years before COVID, I began to attend Live Oak UU in Cedar Park. Just learning to interact with people was more of a challenge than I had expected, but was totally worth the effort. Then came the day the state of Texas decided that parents of transgender children were to be prosecuted for child abuse, and at least one family in the Dallas area was charged. We knew we had to leave for the safety of the whole family. We would have to leave behind family and friends, favorite restaurants and stores, and our UU community. We became refugees. I was online looking for a Unitarian Universalist congregation in Eugene the minute I knew we were moving here. Over 5 days, I drove a 26-foot truck across 5 states and numerous mountain ranges. We moved into our southeast Springfield house on April 15th, 2022. It was a Friday. I was in church that Sunday. My anticipation was more than fully repaid. This congregation has been more than I could have hoped for, and I'm incredibly grateful that Rainey and I were so fortunate to have set down roots in this community. 6 months ago, we had a scare with our lease. So we reached out to this community for support. We received much good advice, many messages of support and encouragement. It completely turned our fear and panic into steady confidence, and it got us through that crisis. The issue was resolved at the time without having to move, and we had a chance to recognize how deeply we had been wounded by the adversarial politics of Texas. On October 7th, The other shoe dropped. We received notice that our lease was terminated. We had 3 months to vacate, so we got busy looking. And we reached out to our community once again. Within hours of posting about our situation, Donna Stearns told us about this house for rent in Eugene on Lawrence Street near the park. We drove through College Hill, a friendly neighborhood, and were enchanted. We looked at several houses before we were able to arrange a viewing of the house on Lawrence. Rainey and I brought our nephew, Toby, to see the house on a late Sunday afternoon as the setting sun put the autumn elm leaves aflame. The house was amazing, old and funky and hip and big. Big enough for us. The backyard held towering cypress and pine guardians lording over apple trees. Apple trees. The house is right next to Cheese Park, right in the center of everything. Everywhere we wanted to be. Rainey's classes at U of O are much closer than before. Civic amenities are within easy walking or biking distance. The grocery store is only 6 blocks away and not 6 minutes away. Our favorite curry and tsunami books are dangerously proximate. The landlord said he grew up in this neighborhood, and his business focused specifically on houses, just in this neighborhood. We were standing on the back deck after the tour and talking about how convenient the house was to everything. Like my church, I offered. Your church, he asked. Where's that? Rainey told him it was the UU church on 13th and Chambers, and he smiled all big and said, well, that's the best church in town. He insisted that it had the best folks and seemed pleased about our association. Later, he told us his marketing plan had been to avoid the big rental websites, instead targeting neighbors with a small sign in the yard and a nondescript Craigslist ad, counting on word of mouth to filter responses. When we replied that our friend from church had told us about it, he said, this is precisely how I hoped that chain would happen. We found out on October 15th that we had been approved for a lease on this new house, and we moved in by November 7th. From our front porch, we can watch Little League games and folks exercising with their dogs. Rainey's art studio has a bay window on the south wall, and my home office bears witness to sunrise over apple trees. We discovered the neighborhood pizza place and the closest credit union office and reeled when we realized we were using a third less gas. If anyone needs moving boxes, we've got you covered. My family shares our gratitude to our goddess, the torchbearer and keymaster, who lights the way and clears all obstacles. She has guided and protected our family for 30 years, and we have been witness to her grace. We give thanks to Donna Stearns for thinking we would make a great addition to the neighborhood, and to our whole UU community for their continued support and wisdom as we set our roots a little deeper. Thank you all.
Thank you, Suzanne. Good morning. My name is Ryan Doppelmayr. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration here. My pronouns are she, her. I am a middle-sized, middle-aged woman, white woman with short brown hair and a purple owl dress on, but we will talk about that later. But actually, today I'm going by another name. Today I am Ryan the Builder. You might be familiar with my cousin Bob. And I am wondering if there are any folks who would be willing and able to help me with a construction project. And if so, they are welcome to come up a little closer, pull up a cozy carpet rectangle. Come on down, because I am Ryan the Builder, and I am gonna try and build myself a church today. You know, you've got a mighty fine one here in town, here at UUCE, and I was wondering if you could help me build one as solid and as strong as this one. Do you think you might be able to do that? Yeah? You might be able to help me out? Okay, perfect. Well, I got a little bit started already. So maybe you can help me over here. Actually, maybe I could use some real helpers to bring this a little closer. Oh, it sure is strong. It sure is. All right, spin it right over here. All right. Excellent. Okay, we've got a frame. But you know what we should really start with to make sure a building is strong and solid? Oh my gosh. What do we need?
A foundation?
We need a solid foundation. Absolutely. Okay. So for a foundation, I've got a covenant here. And could I have a board member come up and help me with some bylaws? Maybe some church bylaws, and our covenant can be our foundation. Thank you, Steve. Okay, got that down there. And then we need also something solid for support. How about, can I have a minister bring up a chalice for us? Yeah, okay, we got a chalice in there. And maybe, could I have our treasurer bring up some funds? Because that's always important to get things started, get things going. All right, we've got our piggy bank here, Phyllis, thank you. All right, thanks. Yeah, right, anywhere in there. And then maybe you guys can help me because I've been looking around. There's so much that goes into this building. Maybe you guys can help me build the rest of it, huh? So let's see, we've got Black Lives Matter sign. That says for BIPOC group. Okay. Can we put that in there somewhere? Yeah, I see. Okay, we've got a crown. I see that's for the pagans. All right. We've got a Braille hymnal. It says Accessibility Task Force on there. Okay. That's pretty important. We've got, maybe you guys, can you guys just come and grab some things and then tell me what it's for? Let's see, what is that for? Ooh.
Crispy bacon.
What is it?
Crispy bacon.
That is Crispy Bacon, our jet pig, to remind us of our values. Yep, okay, and our religious exploration for everyone. Absolutely. What else? What else have we got in there? All right, what does that say on there?
Ukraine's.
Unitarians. Don't forget the Unitarians. All right. What else have we got?
Binoculars.
For what? Ooh, I see binoculars for some birders. Yeah. I have some, shoes for marching for the Justice Council. Okay. We got those. We've got a casserole dish for potluckers. All right. What else have we got? Can you guys help me out with some other stuff? Yeah. What does that say? Oh, what is that?
The world.
The world for some Earth Action groups. Yeah. What else? Can you help me build some more, guys? What else can we find? Yeah. What is the
LGBTQ group? Crafters and sew for the cause.
That's Kieran's blanket. A drum. Drumming on.
Okay, we got our drum circle, folks.
A computer mouse.
A computer mouse for we need some staff, definitely. Oh, what is that?
A weapon.
Let's try that again.
A screwdriver.
Who's that for?
Me. Buildings and grounds.
Okay. We got, ooh, I can see a nice sack lunch for food justice. Okay. Yeah. What else have we got? Oh, what have we got there?
Oreos.
For?
Youth group.
Because snacks, yeah. And?
A paintbrush.
For?
Painting.
Yeah, for our art gallery. Yeah.
The choir.
We got a sheet music for choir.
A number.
Oh, looks like an auction paddle for the Generosity Network.
Crash cymbals.
Well, let's see. What does that say on there?
Meditation group.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crash symbol if it's for the meditation group. I have a circle for our small group connection circles.
Kids Against Maturity for kids in RE.
Okay.
A mug for coffee.
Coffee.
Coffee. And kitchen coffee.
Yep. And the kitchen crew. We have, a tea light and lighter for our lay pastoral associates. Those joys and sorrows here. What else have we got? We've got a name tag for membership. We've got a book of Unitarian Universalist poets for our poetry group and for our mini book groups that happen.
I like mini books.
Okay. We have a stole for our worship associates.
Men's group.
A fun group.
Pa-
With 2 U's, which is weird.
Fun with 2 U's. Our fun group has a party hat. We've got a compass for Leadership Development Committee. We've got a map of Springfield for Springfield and beyond. We've got a woman's symbol for our women's group. You want to put that up there, Dexy? Can you put those 2 up for me?
Support groups on a piece of paper, taped to a piece of paper, taped to a piece of paper.
On a safety net. We've got hearts for our Committee on Right Relations. Can you put that up there for us? We've got a copy of our land acknowledgement for our Indigenous Connection Circle. We have a peace stub for UUs for Justice in the Middle East. And we have one of those handy guides for Sunday morning worship for our ushers and greeters. Can you guys put those up for us? And we're going to put some of these flowers in for some of the committees and groups and relationships that I might have missed because there are so many folks who go into building this amazing community. Wow. That is, I think that's pretty good. I think that's looking pretty solid. And you know what? There's a bit of a hole down here. I think that's space, just enough for a person, because we need you. We need people. We need each and every one of you, all of us, to help build this church too. So what do you think, guys? It's looking pretty good? I think so. I think it's looking pretty solid. So thank you. Thank you.
My name is Ember. I serve as our ministerial intern. I am a medium-sized, medium-aged human wearing mostly black. And as we begin this new year, we come together to reflect on our shared commitments to this community. Today marks the opening of our annual stewardship drive, a time when we invite each other to move forward boldly. Stewardship means more than maintaining our church building. It reflects our shared responsibility to nurture a community rooted in UU values of justice, compassion, and transformation. While last year's stewardship drive asked for greater bravery in giving, this year brings a significant shift in that focus. With our mortgage soon to be paid off, we anticipate the opportunity to reimagine how we invest in this, our shared mission. Because the work we do as a community is not something that happens passively. It requires us to show up, to offer what we can, and to contribute in ways that support a greater whole. In many Christian faith spaces, funding comes from external sources of support, such as denominational groups, tithes mandated by doctrine, or even large endowments built over generations. However, our congregation relies entirely on the voluntary contributions of our members and friends to sustain our ministries, programs, and operations. This calls us to reimagine what it means to be a church, a sacred community we actively co-create. And generosity as a core UU value calls us to share what we have, our resources, our time, and our talents in service of creating a more just and compassionate world. Generosity fuels our work of social justice, enabling us to challenge systems of oppression and extend support to those in need. It also sustains the connections between us, nurturing a community and inviting us to see ourselves not as isolated individuals, but as interconnected parts of a whole, where the well-being of one impacts the well-being of all. It is through acts of generosity that we transform our values into tangible actions, building a church that embodies love, equity, and inclusion. May this practice of giving in all its forms become a spiritual discipline, reminding us of our shared commitments as we prepare to worship together.
Please join me in the responsive reading. The words will be on the screen. Yes. We hold a story. A story that begins in my heart and shapes my journey. My story is intertwined with the stories of those around me. Through our connections, our individual stories grow and deepen. We share our story, and in doing so, create community. This community extends beyond these walls, reaching far and wide. The love, justice, and care we cultivate here spreads to our neighborhood, our city, our world. As my story grows, it touches the past and those yet to come. Together, we are part of a story that heals, builds, and transforms the world. Each act of generosity creates a legacy. A story of love, justice, and connection that grows and stretches across time and space. Together, we are creating something eternal. A story that will be told for generations, ever growing and expanding. Sorry. Even as we open our hearts and minds to the spirit of generosity,
we are also aware that discussing money can feel uncomfortable and even taboo. The act of naming it during our call to worship highlights this discomfort because I too wrestle with it in my body, balancing the sacred and the material. I know that for myself, as someone who has experienced both financial comfort and extreme poverty, my struggle in talking about money from the pulpit relates to the idea of upholding money as an object of spiritual value. Because the pulpit, for me, is a place reserved for the sacred, a space to explore deepest truths, wrestle with profound mysteries of existence, and call our community toward collective transformation. Money, on the other hand, does not strike me as sacred. I would not go so far as to call it profane. Tools aren't really capable of holding moral value. But to hold money up in the same breath as love or justice or connection feels dissonant, as though I am asking the holy to share space with the mundane. A philosophical concept that helps me untangle the complexities of history, how we as religious liberals have approached both capital and oppression, is the idea of a hyperobject, a term coined by philosopher Timothy Morton in relation to the climate crisis. A hyperobject describes phenomena so vast and interconnected that they defy our usual understanding of time, space, and scale. These are forces we cannot fully grasp or pin down, yet they shape our lives profoundly. The church, in many ways, is a hyperobject. Imagine visiting the church we have built for the first time and saying, "I would like to see the church." We might show you the classrooms and the chapel and the tiny houses and the worship supplies. We might sing from our hymnal, sit in the south foyer, eat food together in the social hall, but still you ask, where is the church? Because the church isn't just this building. It isn't what we do on Sundays, and it isn't even our collective actions. Our church is all of these things and more, bigger than what we can see or name. Hyperobjects such as climate change, systemic oppression, or church disrupt our perception of time by exposing these vast forces that extend beyond human scales and comprehension. These phenomena exist simultaneously in the deep past, the present moment, and an unknowable future, challenging the linear narratives we construct to make sense of our lives. This disruption of time, much like we invoked into our bodies last Sunday, challenges how we perceive ourselves and our place in the world. To become suddenly aware of how large and uncaring time is, how it stretches endlessly before and behind us, can feel disorienting. Viewing the church through the lens of a hyperobject helps us grasp its true nature, not merely as a building or a set of actions, but as an interconnected, evolving presence, encompassing the tangible and the intangible. Similarly, when we consider the forces of oppression that we fight, a hyperobjectivity perspective reveals their omnipresence and their refusal to be confined to specific historical moments. While it is tempting to pinpoint the origin of systemic oppression to the 1930s or the 1860s or 1490, this framing risks reducing oppression to an external or finite phenomenon. Within this unsettling awareness lies a powerful truth. If oppression is woven into the fabric of our existence, so too is our potential for liberation. Just as we can feel dwarfed by time's vastness, we can also find empowerment in the realization that our actions, however small, contribute to this larger story. Each act of generosity, each commitment to equity, and each step toward interdependence resonates beyond the boundaries of this room and this moment. I was raised Unitarian Universalist, and throughout my life, I have belonged to or been involved with a lot of Unitarian congregations. Each congregation has its own governance model and a unique internal culture and distinctive ways of embodying and expressing our values. If I were to take you on a journey to the churches that have shaped my life, you would encounter a distinct story at each stop, a distinct hyperobject. This diversity has not only shaped my understanding of our faith, but has also deepened my appreciation for its flexibility and resilience. As UUs, our values call us to confront forces of oppression, not just as external entities, but as deeply ethical and theological issues. For me, this means embracing a theological stance against the ways churches, as institutions, are embedded within systems of colonialism, white supremacy, and other structures of power. This is why our faith work matters so deeply. We are not merely resisting external forces. We are engaged in the vital, ongoing internal work of transformation. This transformation often calls us to hold multiple coexisting truths, even when they challenge us. For instance, we can celebrate the milestone of building ownership, recognizing the greater resources, security, and flexibility it brings. This achievement not only strengthens our ability to build the beloved community we seek, but also supports our progression towards other areas of economic justice. Our commitment to raising the minimum wage for all of our staff to $20 an hour moves us closer to providing a true living wage, an act that reflects our understanding of fair compensation as a moral imperative rather than merely a financial matter. And at the same time, we can recognize that even as we celebrate owning this building outright, we cannot ignore the deeper context in which this ownership exists. This building stands on stolen land, a stark reminder of the American genocide and the ongoing legacies of colonialism and white supremacy. We are both stronger and more complicit than ever, holding the tension between the security of what we have built and the injustices in the system that make it possible. The only way that I can talk about money from this pulpit is to tie it to the sacred work we do. Money itself is not sacred, but the work we do together as a faith community is. I recognize that my discomfort comes not only from lifting up money as a sacred object, but also from the tension inherent to the hyper-object that is the society in which I live. And I think that this tension mirrors our larger collective struggle with pledge season. My own discomfort with how the system of church operates is shaped in part by years of poverty. I have often felt that my ability to offer time and talent was seen as unequal to financial contributions. As a person with a chronic illness, I understand how expensive time can be, and I've had the experience of feeling like the talents that I have cultivated are just not the talents that we need. Yet, I have seen that in this space, we are creating together. Offerings of energy are held as equal to donations of money, and in many ways, this makes them even more significant. This pledge drive is just one piece of the learning I'm doing while I am here. As someone in a leadership role, I know that my UU experience is not universal. My experience of feeling othered due to poverty is not inherent to the UU experience, even if our denomination as a whole has some issues with affluence. As we enter this new phase of our life as a congregation, adjusting to what it means to own our building, I believe that these non-monetary contributions will only grow in importance. Together, we are reimagining what it means to create a community sustained by generosity in all its forms. And this doesn't absolve us of responsibility. In fact, I think it calls us to greater accountability. Marginalized communities, particularly trans, BIPOC, and disabled individuals, are under increasing threat, and I don't like leaning on the idea that we are just now approaching a time where things are going to be very bad for trans, BIPOC, and disabled beloveds. This isn't new, and it isn't a slow creep. which is why it is essential to recognize that milestones like paying off our mortgage exist within the larger context of time and the interconnected systems that shape us. As someone who resides within this hyperobjective church, I am as prone as anyone to viewing it as a snapshot rather than an ongoing process. Paying off the mortgage is undeniably a monumental achievement, providing us with the potential to radically transform how this community engages with itself and the wider world. It marks a turning point in which the financial needs are shifted, creating new possibilities for ministry, outreach, and care. And the truth is, I won't be here to witness the full extent of these changes. I am a guest in this space. While I can see the contributions of interns before me all around me, and I know the presence I bring does not simply vanish when I leave, I also recognize the privilege of stepping into this timeline, participating in this narrative, and stepping back out. In the story of this congregation, I am a chapter, and you, our members, congregants, and staff, are the book. You are the ongoing story still being told. In this moment, I see a community on the cusp of transformation, equipped with the strength, resilience, and vision to navigate the complexities of its unfolding story. This narrative is rooted in the deep soil of love that transcends boundaries and justice that challenge the status quo. How will the work you do today, your acts of generosity, your commitment to justice, and your embrace of interconnection ripple outward, touching lives far beyond what any of us can see? This is your story to craft, a story I am honored to witness, and that is one that will resonate long into the future, too vast and complex to fully grasp, forming the beloved community we seek. Amen, and blessed be. And now, as we depart, may we continue to treasure a story that began long before us and will continue long after we are gone, our actions rippling outward, carrying the spark of transformation and building a world where all are welcomed and cherished. And now, please join me in our chalice extinguishing.